Isn't on right now either.
Yours is, though.
I just turned it on.
And we don't need to hold it. We can just kind of move it in front of us, or do we have to like?
I'd pass it. I'm really loud. Is it always that loud?
No, it's not.
Okay, I feel very echoey.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I didn't say it quite like class time like Aaron did. I'm trying, but this isn't class time. This is fun time, right? So Aaron's not here today. He went to go see his family in Florida, so he's having some much-needed R&R. So if you guys need anything in the next few days, please reach out to me. I want to give him that time to kind of relax and let him decompress, because we all know running this company, a little decompression time will be good for him. So reach out to me, reach out to one of the PCs. And I feel very echoey. Is this still really loud?
You're good.
Okay, it's just like coming right back into my face. So, you know, this week I'm going to start off with a video, but before I do, I want to say where it came from. Kevin Wool from First American Home Warranty was thinking about you guys when he saw this video, and when he sent it to me, I thought, he's so in line with us because it's absolutely perfect with the things that we're talking about every day. So Ryan, if you want to go ahead and start that video. It's a TikTok, so squint. It's that simple, guys. You were looking for the easy button. There it is, right? We've been talking about that easy button. I keep telling you that there's no such thing. He just opened up that secret for you guys. It really is just about rubbing shoulders, talking to people, getting out there. And I love how he said, and I don't know if you guys know who that is. I can't remember what his name is. What's his name?
His name's Josh Altman, $1 Million Listing LA.
$1 Million Listing. So I'll give myself a shameless plug. If you guys haven't come to my time management class, I have a little spot from him on my time management class, and it is next Wednesday for those of you who are going to join us, which I think it'll be everybody, right? Oh. Everybody needs time management. I really hope that you guys do join me, but he is hilarious. Ryan disagrees with me, but he's hilarious. He doesn't do real estate the right way. He gets emotional, but that's why it's a fun show, right? Because he gets really emotional. So watch the show, be entertained, don't do what he does, and come to my class, and you guys will learn what you should be doing. Okay? Go ahead, Kevin.
You know, the other thing is that I watch a lot of TikTok. It's just my favorite. You know, there's another guy on there, and he's like an insurance guru, and he talks about you fail if you sit down next to somebody and you don't talk to people on either side. So, you know, it's really important. Whoever you sit next to, you never know who they are and what they're about. And the conversations that I've had with people sitting next to me, it's unbelievable what you'll find out. And that way you build a relationship with them, and you pass them your card and you go, hey, if you're in the mind for real estate or a home warranty or whatever, they'll talk to you. So the challenge is whoever you sit next to talk to both of them, or if there's 3 or 4 people, talk to all 3 or 4 of them. And if you don't, you failed for the day.
That's a great challenge. So many lessons in that little TikTok. I guess TikTok is really good for us, because another thing he said was, if you want to work with those luxury people, get involved in the things that those luxury people are doing. I mean, we talked about it before, but I mean, they're really into watches. Know those watches. They're really into, you know, designer clothes. Know those clothes. Know those features in those properties. And so definitely thank you, Kevin, for sharing your lovely knowledge with us each week. I am going to roll right into a roundtable. We have not done one for a little while, and I know you guys know, you should know. If you don't know all of these people, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick introduction. We've got Andrew Fair, our Achievement Productivity Coach. And we've got JD or Jacques. I really like to say his name, but he doesn't love that. It's just so much fun to say. I can't spell it. Every time I send you an email, I go JAQ. And every time I'm like, okay, this is why, he says, just call me JD. Jacques is also our sponsor for our breakfast this morning. So one big clap for Jacques. Thank you. And then also from FGMC, we've got our lovely Jennifer Whitman. And if you guys don't know him, Matt Graham has graced us with his presence today. Thank you so much.
It's a long drive across there.
Right? I do it every day. We live very close to each other.
Okay, no excuses.
No excuses. Matt is also from FGMC, and if you guys haven't got to know him, please do chat with him. Reach out to him. He has so much knowledge to share with you guys, and every time he comes to visit, we absolutely love it, don't we?
Yes.
And then, of course, Valerie Profair from our launch team, Productivity Coach. So we are going to have a couple topics that we're going to chat about today for you guys. And we're going to kick it off with Matt wants to talk to you guys a little bit about, we've been hearing on the news, the Federal Reserves are upping those rates, and what does that actually mean for us in the real estate community?
Good morning. If you listen, no, honestly, everybody's knee-jerk reaction is, oh, the Fed raised rates, they raised the rates. Well, the Fed rate is what's called the short-term rate. It's what the interest is on credit cards, car loans, things of that nature, home equity lines of credit. And they're going to raise them 7 times this year. Well, the problem isn't that they raised them. The problem is they did not raise them enough. So if I'm a bond trader, and bond traders are the sharpest people in the game, way smarter than stock traders. If you have a fixed asset that you're going to get a 3 or a 4% return on for a mortgage bond, and inflation is 8%, well, you're losing money, so you're not going to buy them. What they want to see is the Fed get more aggressive and raise those rates at like a 50 basis points clip instead of a 25. And about the second or third time they do that, if they do, that's going to be a sign to the bond traders that their 30-year fixed returns are going to get back on the right side of things. The Fed's target rate for inflation is always around 2%. If you're making 3% on a mortgage bond, and these are people that have $100 million, billions of dollars, and they put 10 to 20% of their money into fixed assets that are very safe. And so as long as they're at least pushing what inflation is or making a little above it, they're actually good with that. What they don't want to do is lose 3 to 5% on it. So the media will try to scare everybody. Rates are going through the roof, but we actually need them to go up a little faster to push down inflation and make the cost of money a little harder to get and a little more so that there isn't so much out there, and it'll actually help things. So keep that in mind as well. They need to raise those rates so mortgage rates come down. Because but they won't come down if they raise them 7 times and they only raise them a quarter point at a time, because we're going to be 2%. They kick it up. Sorry, that's my phone. Hopefully, I'll go over there when I'm done. But it's Barry Habib. It's an alert to lock, so I got to go. But yeah, so that's just the big thing to keep in mind. We need to get inflation under control so mortgage rates come back down. If I had to venture a guess, sometime late next spring, we're going to be in the grips of a recession, and rates will come down, and all these people that are buying it are a little hesitant because their rates are historically low, just not as historically low as they were a year or two ago. So
I think that's a lot of big words for a lot of us. I know that Federal Reserves and interest rates, when people talk about them, probably for my first 10 years in real estate, I was like, that sounds good. I have no idea what you're talking about right now. How does that affect my client? And so we do see it on the news. We're seeing it. It was all over the news Monday. I don't watch the news very often. I'm an ostrich. I like to just stick my head in and ignore it. It got a little overwhelming in 2020 for me. So with that, though, Monday morning, Mike turns it on every morning. Thank you, honey, for doing that. And of course, all over the news, they're saying it's going up and it's going to continue to go up. And I remember that during pandemic that they were like, oh, interest rates are going through the floor. And real estate agents across the country, I have a lot of friends across the country that do real estate, started marketing, oh my goodness, interest rates are 0%. And everyone was like, all the lenders jumped in and said, whoa, 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 whoa. You don't sound like you know what you're talking about. Matt, explain that.
Yeah, so the Fed funds rate was 0 to a quarter. And so that means when a bank goes to the Fed to borrow money, they're paying 0 to a quarter point. Now they're going to pay 0.25 to 0.50. It's still almost arbitrage. When you get money that cheap, you just throw it out there, lend it out, and you make a ton of money. But that's why we need that rate to come up to slow down that flow of money. Because remember, with what happened during COVID, they increased the money supply by 25%. Why do you think everything went up 25%? You know, they talk about 7 or 8 or 9% inflation. Anyone that's been to the grocery store or the gas pump prior to the Russian-Ukraine issue, we were more like 50% increase in costs. So, you know, something that you said earlier, if you want to deal with high-end people, hang out with high-end people, well, if you want to have intelligent conversations with your clients and show them that you know a little bit, just turn on Bloomberg in the morning. You know, just have it playing in the background. You'll start to pick up things, these little, you know, the acronyms, some of the things that maybe I'm saying that don't come in clear. Or just reach out to me anytime you want to chat about it. I'm happy to. I like to talk, in case you haven't noticed. So anytime you want to chat about it or go over that, I consider myself about as well versed in this stuff as anybody in the game, because I love it. I love numbers and I love people. So I stumbled into a good career for myself because I like to do what I do. And the more you know about it, and you guys don't need to be experts on interest rates, but if you have a client that is affluent, you know, they probably know a little bit about this stuff. So just brush up enough on it to where you can have an intelligent conversation with them, and they're going to be like, oh, she gets it, he gets it, I'd like to work with them.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So hearing what we're seeing in the news right now, our conversations need to be a little more impactful with our clients, because what you're going to start hearing more and more, oh, I missed my window of opportunity, interest rates are out of control, we can't buy now. A few weeks ago in the Market Watch, we shared a graph that showed the history of interest rates over the decades and where 4% lied in that. And quite honestly, 4% is still fantastic when you look at the historical rates in the country. So keep that in mind. And also, it's give and take, right? So the interest rates are, let's say a little over 4% right now, going to continue to rise. But the appreciation is the give in this moment. Andrew and I were just looking at a property that sold in 2020 for $390. It's valued at $535 today. Look at that equity in just 2 years. With the appreciation still on the rise projected for a while, if you buy today, even in just 2 years, you're going to have equity. So that's the give and take that we need to be prepared to talk with our clients about.
Yeah, quick stat. From 1972 to 2009, 37 straight years, rates were above 5%. So we've been spoiled.
We have.
But my rate on my first house was 8. My second one was 8 1/4. So, and I was, making $12 an hour. Qualified for it.
8%.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that really 40 years and younger, they think that's crazy. But that was a low rate when he probably locked it in. And so keeping that in mind, I know I tell my clients all the time that first-time homebuyers come into this market and they jump right out of it and say, oh my gosh, we went up 0.5%. We're at 4% now. Well, they're going to go talk to their grandparents, they're going to go talk to their parents, and they're going to come back and realize 4% is still a really good rate. And like Valerie said, and I think Mike wants to add on to, is that it all comes out in the wash. Is that where you're going?
Question for Matt.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm only going to hold you to this within like 0.1.
Okay.
What's your prediction for interest rates for the rest of the year? Where do we finish?
Sometime in
Mortgage
the end of Q3, beginning of Q4, we'll probably peak right around 5%. And when you hear, the average rate is this, it usually comes with about 40 basis points cost, because that's about the average cost between people that buy down and don't buy down their rates. So I think we're going to be, I think we'll see 5, just get a glimpse of it, and by then that'll be the end of it.
Okay, so between 4.9 and 5.1, or dinner's on you.
Okay, cool. You got it. It's on me anyway. I can either gloat or you can gloat.
JD?
Yeah, I just want to drive the one point home, and that is the one of the questions that we get every time the Fed goes up, and this goes to what Matt was saying, but just in simple terms, every time it goes up a quarter or a half or whatever it is, the question comes out from our clients and from agents, oh, mortgage rates just went up a quarter or a half, whatever that number is. And that's not true, right? So after what Matt explained today, it's important for you to understand that when the Fed raises rates, it's affecting car loans, credit cards, HELOCs, but not mortgages directly.
It's so important to know, but like Matt said, and I think everyone said at some point, you guys don't have to know all of this. Just know enough to lead your client to the experts. Just know enough to have that conversation where they say, wow, like Matt said, this person knows what they're talking about. And then lead them to the right place, because they don't expect you to know it all. They just expect you to have an understanding, to have a conversation with them. And then I think too, even going up to 5%, Jen says it all the time, it's still free money, you guys. It's the investors out there are just eating it up. They love that they can continually get loans, flip properties, get investments, and all of your clients should be feeling the same way. Did anyone else have anything they want to add to? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Matt, can you have a quick conversation about how you would propose that to a client about buying those points down and kind of the benefit of that if we wanted to have that conversation with the client?
Yeah, for me, I always say whatever the cost is to buy it down, you need to return it in 4 years, so it doubles in 8 years. And if you use the rule of 72, 8 years divided into 72, it means you're making a 9% return on your investment that you borrowed, that you didn't even have to put the money out to buy it down. And so that's a good rule of thumb for it. It used to be in the old days, you needed to get rate bought down a point for it to make sense, but that's when rates were 8, 9, 10, 12%. Well, when rates are 5 and you drop it a half, that's still a 10% drop in what your rate was. That would be the equivalent of a 10 going to a 9. And so as long as the cost to buy down is returned in 4 years or less, it's worth it if you're going to stay in the home 8 years. The cautionary conversation I always have with a client is the average mortgage lasts 5.5 years. So unless you're going on a fixed income shortly, I don't advise it. Some people are just so payment conscientious that they have to have that payment low, and it's not a good investment. It just makes them feel warm and fuzzy. But for the most part, if anyone's going to buy right now, don't buy down the rate. I would do the opposite. I would tick the rate up a point and let us give them $4,000 in closing costs. Maybe their payment goes up, on a $350,000 loan, it's about $28 an eighth. We raised it a half rather, so that's $112 a month. So it's going to be 3 years before they've actually paid that money back, $112 a month, and we gave them those closing costs. And the odds are, in about 18 months, we're going to be refinancing them in the low 3s. So they've won twice. So those are the kind of conversations that we love to have with clients. Engage these experts, JD, Jen, Yvette, Matt. Get me involved. Those are the type of conversations I love to have. Do what's best for the client, and often people are not bold enough to just educate them. And they just, if I tell them to take a higher rate, they're going to think it's a sales job. No, it's going to benefit you. If I handed you $4,000 and you had to pay me back $112 a month on it, you'd probably take it. And so if you just put it in the terms of the mortgage, it makes sense. One other thing I just want to add real quick is, I briefly looked, is affordability. Everybody's screaming about affordability. Well, houses went up, let's just say 20%. Some went up 15, some went up 25, okay? The average private industry wage earner made 10% more last year, okay? And you use 30% of that to qualify for a home. So even with the higher rates, payments increased by a total of about 3% out of someone's budget last year. It barely changed. So that's like your taxes going from $250 to $257.50 when we get our annual increase. It's not that much. So the give and take that you talked about, people are making more money. They're barely giving up a little more of that increase, and they're getting the benefit of all the equity they're building in their home. So
That's a great way to put it. Did anyone else have any questions on Federal Reserves and rate increases before we move on? Amy?
I don't have a question so much as just a comment.
Oh,
Your
hold on
goal
just
is to get
Amy.
your buyer.
just a second.
Your goal is to get your buyer to talk to your lender. You need to have enough of a conversation so you understand where they're at and what their goals are. If somebody is financially tight, that needs to be relayed to the lender. The lender needs to understand what are their goals, what do they have in their pocket now, what are they trying to do, how long do they want to be in the home. As much of that information as you can get to your preferred lender, it's going to help start that conversation. So they're not just starting cold with your buyer that you should have already started a relationship with.
Absolutely. ABCDFGMC right here.
And that's why you're up here. That's why. I love it. We're going to continue on talking financing and talk a little bit about gift funds. I know that these have been some gift funds have come up a few times, and more recently, as we see a few more of these first-time home buyers coming in that maybe don't have quite enough funds to get there, there's other ways for them to do it. And I know JD wants to start us off with that.
So gift funds, who can give, who's a qualified donor as far as gift funds? A family member, significant other. So if somebody is engaged, then we would get a letter saying that they're engaged. That would be a significant other from a standpoint of not being married or part of the family yet. Long lost cousin, maybe. That's pushing it.
Twice removed.
But what happens? Yeah.
Conventional, yes. FHA.
Conventional, yeah. Yeah, blood tests on FHA. So, but now what happens with the gift funds? And this part right here I think is important to explain to your client. So we don't recommend that the donor hands over $10,000 to their son and puts it in the bank account. We recommend that those funds are held until right before closing. So maybe a week or so before, 10 days before. And so if the donor understands that, they understand that their son or whoever is going to be in contract on a home, and now they're in the process, the closing process. And that money should really be sent directly to title. So wire transfer to title. If you have a conventional loan, usually we don't need to verify the funds with a bank statement. But I always like to say usually, just in case. With FHA or with a government loan, then they're going to want to see that bank statement just to see that that donor had the money in their account, you know, the whereabouts to be able to give that $10,000 or whatever it is, okay? Now, if there's a $10,000 cash deposit 3 days before the wire, we might have a problem, right? I mean, it makes sense.
No might.
Yeah, we will. We will.
No might.
Yeah.
But
So
JD, explain
yeah.
to them why there's a problem, because I think a lot of the agents
Sure.
here don't know that.
we have to verify funds, right? And cash is not verifiable. So even with your borrower, if they say, well, I don't trust banks and I have $5,000 under the mattress, we have to season those funds. In other words, we're going to ask for 2 months bank statements from your borrower. So if we see a large deposit on that bank statement, we're going to have to find out where it came from. Okay? So the same thing goes for the donor. So going back to the gift funds, if there's a large deposit in there, we're going to have to verify those funds. So we need to prepare these things. If somebody does have some funds that are not seasoned, since we're going to ask for 60-day printout or 2-month bank statements, it would be a good idea for them to deposit that money in their account as soon as possible. So that if we don't see it when we ask for 60 days or 2 months bank statements, we don't ask. Does that make sense? Any questions? Yeah. No. No. Sometimes there's a minimum. It depends on, sometimes there's a minimum. A few loans still require a minimum of 5% from the borrower. But not many loans, programs are that way now, so.
I know like 12,000 you can only write it off. I give it
Well,
to my kid for 12 grand, I can write off up to 12. But
that's a good, yeah, there's no cap to us. But the donor, if they exceed whatever the IRS, and they keep kind of increasing it every year, so if it's 12,000 this year, if they give more than 12,000, they may have to pay taxes on that difference. The donor pays the taxes, not the recipient. Okay? So that's a good point right there.
Consult your local
I
tax
say
professional.
Yes.
the same
Yeah.
You read my mind.
Thank you.
I say the same thing. Go
Yeah,
and
and we
ask
say
your
the same
tax
thing.
advisor, 'cause we, you know.
We can't give tax advice. But we say, just know that this is something you need to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't give specifics that way, but now at least you understand what we're dealing with. Any questions on that?
So can gift funds be returned, paid back?
Oh. It can be a loan, right? Because sometimes I had one the other day saying, well, I could probably borrow $10,000 from my mother. No. It has to be a gift fund. We have a gift letter that is a form letter with the loan number and everything else on it that we give to the donor. They'll put their bank account number on there and who they are, relationship, and so forth. But caveat here, they could always gift it back. I mean,
After closing.
well,
No. We don't know. We don't want to know.
Right.
we're not saying it can't be a loan. That's all I would tell you.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Anything else? Any other sneaky questions?
All right, so you guys are good on gift funds. And just as a quick, for some of you very new agents, when he's saying that those funds need to be seasoned, they need to prove that they're legitimate funds, that they didn't come from terrorists or drugs. They need to confirm that
Or
it's
a loan.
or another loan or credit card. Yeah, you're right.
Or a loan from a terrorist.
Or a loan from a terrorist. There's so many things they have to check. So moving on, we had an issue over the week with an agent that I wanted to bring to the attention. I'm going to name names and everything. No, I'm not. But this was a good question that I wanted to bring up. If we have an appraisal come in, say you're in contract for $500,000, you have an appraisal come in at $480,000, and you had an appraisal gap written into the purchase agreement. So you said to the seller, you represent the buyer, that you are willing to pay $10,000 over appraised value, not to exceed contract price of $500,000. So now the buyer has agreed to pay $10,000 over. The appraisal came in $20,000 short. If you guys don't remember, I started with a $500,000 purchase and a $480,000 appraisal. Now, buyer and seller are looking at each other going, what's next? Does anyone want to answer this on what's next? And I'll tell you guys a couple of the scenarios that I was told. One scenario is that you're back to renegotiations. Is that right? We'll take a vote. We'll take a vote. So A is you're back to negotiations. B is seller and buyer agreed to an appraisal gap, and now they have to agree to what the appraisal came in. Or C, and I'm giving away the answer by just, does anyone have a C?
I can give them a hint.
C, cancellation altogether.
I can give you guys a hint.
What, Mike?
In what she said, did you hear the word seller there anywhere?
Yeah.
Anywhere
That's a
in
good
that
point.
appraisal
Giving you
gap
guys a
verbiage
hint.
is the word seller included. Does the seller agree to anything?
So who thinks
They need to
A, renegotiate? Okay. Who thinks B, they're locked in, the appraisal came in low, sorry
So now they're
seller,
locked
that
in
was-
at 490.
You hedged the bet.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or C, run away and hide.
Try a rebuttal.
I know, right?
Zach and I tried the 5,000 rebuttal.
So D, try a rebuttal.
Well, I think that goes back into
What?
negotiations.
Right. Back to negotiations.
That's
We can change the scenario just a little bit and make it
Sure.
more obvious.
Go ahead.
Let's say it's a $300,000 property and the appraisal comes in at $250,000. Does that mean the seller has said 260? They're good?
No,
No, not necessarily.
we're renegotiating.
We're renegotiating, you guys. The appraisal gap covered the gap. The gap was bigger than the gap they talked about in the first place. Seller is not required to go down in price just because a buyer said that they would pay what they initially said they would pay for the property in the first place. And so keep that in mind. And if this doesn't make sense, I'm going to kind of go over it in a couple different ways. But the appraisal gap is telling the seller that they're willing to pay more for the property than it's worth, and they know while they're writing the offer that they are writing the offer for more than it is worth. And when I say what it's worth to an appraiser. And the appraiser is there, yes, to protect the buyer, kind of, but they are really there to protect the lender and their investment in this property. And if the lender, by advice from the appraiser, says that the property's not worth it, buyer can overpay. The appraisal is only saying that the lender is not going to give you that loan in that full amount. So don't be confused that a gap is now forcing the seller to do something that they don't want to do. They don't have to go down $10,000 in price because you wrote a gap. And that would be renegotiations. They could go down, but you're going to have to request that. Seller could go down, buyer could go up, they could meet in the middle, they could part ways. That's what happens when appraisal comes in low. The gap is only protecting the buyer in saying, this is the only way I'm going to get my offer accepted is if I pay more, and that's why I'm writing the gap. Does that make sense to everybody? And on the lenders, I'm sorry, did you? Corley. Oh yeah, we've got one up here. Thanks, Mike.
Honestly, I speak so loud anyways. I have a really loud voice.
It's on.
I think the real answer that solves this, because we are in like a real situation where that's happening all the time, is communication. So if you are handling the seller, when you get that offer and you're like, whoa, like this is not where I really think it's going to land, you have to prepare them for something like that. And what you can do in representing the seller is you can ask for that extra something from the buyer. You know, like if the appraisal comes in at X, you'll still pay Y. It's not going to be probably as much as what the offer price was, but it's close. They're still getting more than they wanted by even $3,000 to $5,000. It really does put like the seller at ease, and the buyer when they make that offer to have that sort of understanding in their head. Look, you're going to actually win here because if it comes in under, you win, but you need to have some cash out of pocket. So it's really just communicating. And as long as everybody understands that the market, like the appraisals are not really always coming in most of the time, then everybody's prepared for that moment of negotiation.
100%. Communication is so important in setting those expectations. Like Corley was just saying, you guys can bridge that gap. Maybe you've got $10,000 to work with. I've negotiated people $1,000 and $1,000 until they get to their happy place. Because really, a seller doesn't want to go back on the market and get 30 more offers again to sort through. A buyer doesn't want to go back out there, that's for sure. And keep that in mind. Just keep communicating and try to bridge the gap. Yes, keep in mind, set the expectation for your buyer, because sometimes the sellers are going to say, I don't care. I'll take 30 more offers because I'm getting this number. So don't come in there with your chest pumped up feeling like you've got some power, because as a buyer, you have no power in this market, just to be honest.
Then I got a question.
Go ahead, Ernest.
So obviously this is like a ninja tip. So the question is, do we have a wording? Because I remember last couple of times there were some phrases that was put out, and we're using that. Obviously, that doesn't work right now. So we should add like sellers in there somewhere in that phrase that we're putting in the terms?
That's a great question. You're right. The terms that we put in there is exactly what I said, and that's what you guys should be using, because this protects your client to not have to pay $10,000 over whatever the appraised value is. And that is buyer willing to pay $10,000 over appraised value, not to exceed contract price, because you're at the offer for $300,000. And that's still working for what we said and what we've suggested for you guys to use this terminology. But when it comes to the seller side, I'm sorry, you guys, you're not going to get the seller to agree that they're going to go to appraised value or $10,000 over appraised value. The seller would not back themselves into a corner like that. So you guys got to think about both sides. A seller in this market is not going to say, okay, whatever it comes in, I'm good. The example Mike gave, $50,000 different, $50,000 lower appraisal. And we've seen it in this market. You guys have seen it a little bit, right?
We had one for 115 under, and
115.
everyone was actually happy where it came in because they thought it was going to be more than that.
Okay. What was that, like 2.5?
No, it was only like 800,000.
Wow.
But it was grossly overpriced.
Talk about not wanting to leave any money on the table and feeling afraid.
Yeah. And so with this, you can still use that same verbiage, but how you're explaining it to your buyer is what may have to change. So if Matt's my buyer and I'm saying, hey, here's a nice little sweetener we can put in, it's showing good faith that you are willing to come out at $10,000. Now, Matt, if the appraisal comes in $30,000, that does not mean it's guaranteed that we're going to move forward with just your extra $10,000. The sellers have an option to renegotiate at that point. And what Annette just said, come down in price, come up, or we meet in the middle. So that's the only thing that you may need to change when speaking with your buyers.
Hold on, Sonia. He'll come back around with the microphone. I think we have one right before you. Sorry, thank you.
That's okay. I just wanted to kind of reiterate what Corley was saying, also what you guys were saying, because should you be having that conversation along with, the process of with the buyer all the time, from initial? Should you be having that conversation? Like it may
I love
come
that
in.
question. Just,
Yeah.
I know I'm always the one talking. Does someone else want to answer it?
If you're going to write it in
Should
the
you have that
contract,
conversation with the
should
buyer?
your buyer understand what they're having you write in the
What
contract?
could be the outcomes coming through?
Absolutely.
100%.
And in that first consultation where you're sitting down with the buyer and explaining the market, these are things you can say, this is what we're seeing out there on the field. This is what we're seeing in almost every single offer. And here's what it will mean for you. Absolutely, you should be setting those expectations.
Yeah, don't be afraid to tell them the truth. That's why they came to you guys. That's what they're expecting from you. And so tell them the truth. Tell them what to expect in this market and tell them how to succeed and overcome these obstacles. Because they totally can, just like Corley was saying. If you set it up in the beginning, they can hopefully take some of those emotions out of it and think a little bit clearly. And I use these words all the time with my clients. Remember how we talked about that in the beginning? This scenario is happening now. So now what are we going to do? Here's the options. You guys just want to give your clients all the options, educate them so that they can make the best decision to move forward in their purchase or in their sale.
And I'm going to echo that. Education, think of what your value proposition is when you're talking with every single client. What are you doing to differentiate yourself from the 18,000 other agents that are in the valley ready to take your spot? Education, making sure they understand, hey, we're hedging a bet here. It may pay off, it may not, we'll see. All of that education only serves you better in the long run as well, so you don't have a client coming back to you, biting your head off, going, I can't believe you didn't tell me this, Andrew, you bastard. I'm going to someone else. And they will chew your head off and leave. And they'll ghost you, and they'll never talk to you again. You'll be like, damn it.
Go ahead. Now, what happens on the loan side? What happens on the lender side? So when we're speaking with your client and we're establishing that high price that's in the RPA, that's what we're doing the loan on, right? That's what our basis is at. But what happens when it comes in $20,000 low? So now that changes, doesn't it? So if it was $350, now it's $330. So our basis for the loan and the down payment goes to $330 if they decide to come in with that extra $20. But at $330, the down payment is also a little bit less because they were betting on a down payment at $350.
Yep.
Following me? So there's a little bit of room in there that they can use towards whatever they got to come in for the gap.
Yeah, and they could bring in gift funds. There's so many different options. If an appraisal comes in low and the seller says, you're representing the buyer and the seller says, no go, go back to your lender. Start brainstorming, because it could be gift funds. It could be that they don't realize that that adjustment is changing a few things that makes it viable for them. There's so many different things that you can talk to your partners with and still get the deal done. I hope that nobody's canceling escrows without coming to talk to me, Aaron, your lenders, your partners. Talk to everyone and figure out a way to make it work, because you want to make sure that you stay in that escrow if possible, because you guys don't want to go back out there with your client, neither does your client. Did Sonia still have a question? No. Did anybody else have a question? Oh, Hannah does. Do you want to hand Hannah that, Andrew?
I don't really have a question, just more so kind of like what Valerie was saying. When you're speaking with buyers, a lot of them have it in their head that they're going to have to pay more than what it's appraised for. They're going to have to pay more than what they feel the home is valued at, but they're never looking at their perspective of, oh, the appraisal may come in lower. And so when you are talking about appraisal gaps, it could be something to discuss that, hey, you may have only 10K to put over, but if your gap or your appraisal comes down lower and it's more than the 10K, you know, that may change a lot of things for them. It's just a perspective that they aren't seeing or being aware of because of what other people are telling them, what they read online. You know, they're price conscientious about interest rates. So it's just something that I think a lot of people aren't thinking about, not even just buyers. So people kind of get in a situation where they're like, well, I didn't see this coming. So it's something to think about when having those conversations with buyers or even sellers, that, hey, this is something that is happening. Let's not just think that, oh, you're going to get this way crazy price for your home, etc. So just to keep it in mind as something to conversate about.
Oh yeah, I love that point. Set the expectations on both sides. When you're working with the listings, let them know what it looks like when an appraisal comes in low. Explain to them what that gap really means, because they don't understand it. Again, that's why they came to you. I love that, Hannah. Thank you. So does anyone have any more questions on appraisal gaps?
I was going to bring up.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, please do.
Should I bring that one up?
Please do.
So Zach and I have a client right now that the appraisal came in 20,000 low, and we went back and did a rebuttal. And as you know, how often do rebuttals get changed?
I would have said never till now.
I've been doing this 8 years. This is the second time.
That's a rebuttal of the
Appraisal. So the Zach and the listing agent went back and said, hey, whatever comps, whatever it was. And they ended up increasing by 5,000. Okay. So they changed the value to 350, I think is what it was, from 345. And then the listing agent was not very nice, but Zach kept his cool. Zach, ring the bell.
Probably wasn't expecting
Zach,
it.
ring the bell. He got the listing agent to drop it by 15, or the seller, I should say, by the 15,000, and we were able to save the deal, and we're closing.
Zach, that is a bell ringer.
So I know shout outs, but you know, we were talking appraisals and Zach crushed it, but we did get a rebuttal for, I mean,
that's
not
amazing.
That it happens very often.
Right. Now they're all going to be calling you every time. You just did that to yourself.
I did.
No, but it is amazing. And to think about it, I mean, you guys, before you start going after your appraisers, you've got to have at least three comps that are comparable to use for that, and they had the ammunition they needed this time. So that is an amazing feat. Good job to both you and Zach.
Well, and I would like to add to that, the biggest asset we have at FGMC is our people, Scott, Yvette, JD, Jan, Matt, my partner Ray, myself, great people. The second best asset we have is our three appraisals, the panel we use. Brent Jones is the best in the game. And on this deal, he called me because he can call me. I don't do loans in my name. So he called me and he goes, and this listing agent is an ass. Do you mind if I call him he goes, do you mind if I call him and dress him down a little bit? And so he did that. Most appraisers are just like, this is the value, take it or leave it. Even though this guy was not a nice human being, Brent called him, put him in his place a little bit. We got the value up 5,000. After he undressed him, he knew he had nowhere to go with this property. They dropped it. they drop the sales price. So it's such an asset to have. You know, when you brought up the scenario of something that's 500,000 and it appraises at 480 in this market, be grateful because you know a 4% miss is not bad. But we work with the best panel of appraisers in the business. They do a great job. They don't run and hide. They will call the listing agent straight up and say, "What are you seeing here? I'm not seeing it." So that initial blow when an appraisal misses, that the buyer's agent or us have to take the heat from. They've already had the call. The appraiser already told them, "I don't see the value." Maybe they gave them some upgrade list or a comp that they weren't using. There goes my phone again. And but it's such an advantage. We have a huge competitive advantage because of the relationship that I've had with Brent for 15 years. So
yeah, it's truly, I'm sorry to go full circle all the way back to the beginning of the meeting, but it is about those relationships, because that appraisal would have never come through if they weren't communicating with all parties involved. And so, I mean, it's just on every level. Always be thinking about the relationship. Always be thinking about that win-win on every side, because that's what's going to give you guys that success. Did you have something?
And I want to mention on this issue, remember, real estate's very ambiguous. We have a lot of brand new agents out on the field. We have seasoned agents that have thought otherwise when it came to this appraisal gap. So just remember, it is ambiguous. So if you are talking to an agent on the other side who's telling you that you're wrong, you're now equipped with the knowledge to educate them on the matter. So don't be pushed in a corner if they say otherwise.
Sean has a question. You know what? It's the people at home. That's why I do it to you guys, because the Zoomers at home can't hear us. I know you're all loud. I know.
So what I was going to say is that can they ask for another appraiser, like, you know, if they don't really care for, or is that it for them?
It's
And also, okay, and also you think it's a good idea to tag team the appraiser like you guys do? Like saying, hey, you know, we have these two people, salespeople, and they're saying this, and the seller's going to come down, but, you know, you understand what I'm saying? Like, is it a good idea to have, like, you guys worked in teams with that situation?
So you mean as far as communication?
With the agent and appraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as a buyer's agent, I would ask the listing agent, do you want to meet the appraiser at the property, or would you like me to? Because then you've pushed it off on them. If they decide that they're going to be lazy and just let it happen, well, they miss their bite at the apple. You take the reins and run with it. I think someone should meet them out there. Yeah. I think one of the agents should almost always be the point of contact. Sometimes there's some sellers that want to be there and think they're going to unduly influence the appraiser, which isn't going to happen, but they'd sure like to try. But one of the two agents should be there, and I would always pass it to the listing agent for right of first refusal on that, and then see what they say, and then just go if they're not going to be. So you'll be there.
I also always provide the appraisal, like when they call me for access, I at least give them comps. Like, I have to prove that this is the number, and they are so appreciative that I've done that. And I know Brent Jones, and he is the man. He's great.
He's as good as they get.
I call him every time something goes wrong, and I complain, and he's like, I still have never gotten an appraisal
rebuttal.
adjusted. Even if there was a home, same exact home, 2 doors down, that was under contract and sold, and the guy didn't pick it up.
Yep.
And
It's tough.
Very rare.
It's tough. And just from what she's saying and passing on those comps, you guys, we're not supposed to pressure them or push them in any way. If I'm giving them comps or giving them upgrades, I always just say, you know what, I thought this might be helpful, and then back off. Don't be aggressive. You're going to find yourself in trouble or with an appraisal that maybe wasn't as nice as it could have been.
They'll dig their heels in.
Yeah, they will.
Nasty. They're gonna.
They don't like that.
They're human beings, and an appraisal is an opinion of value. Just remember that. And
not to say agents
Neither
are
are underwriters.
or agents.
Or agents.
They go hand in hand.
For the people in the room who don't like to the people who do the math. So it doesn't matter. So you've got somebody who comes in short, get them on the phone, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And so they're going to have those conversations. And you can do that as a conference call. The appraisal came in short. Jen, what are some of the things we can brainstorm? But you're doing that with your client on the phone so that they're not freaking out. And the person who is the expert, especially if you're not comfortable with math, is the one giving those pointers and having that discussion. So the expert, you're staying in your lane, they're giving you options. These people don't think in boxes. They just don't. Jennifer's done some amazing things with my clients.
Oh, thanks.
Everybody knows I absolutely adore Jennifer. So the other thing is encourage the use of VA loans. I detest when I see a listing and someone has, because of lack of education or a bad experience, not put on that they're going to take a VA loan. I love Tidewater. Knock on wood, I have never lost on a Tidewater challenge. Jen knows this. You're literally going to do the job for that VA appraiser. You're doing the math for them. I had one last summer where they claimed Tidewater. It was not my first one. And the listing agent was actually the seller of the house. She and I gladly did our comps. Our appraisal came back higher, and we offered high. So you can win on those. You just have to not be afraid of it.
So true.
Yeah, and Tidewater, for anyone that doesn't know, on a VA appraisal, when they know they're going to come in low, they invoke the Tidewater Act. Everyone's got 48 to 72 hours to produce what they feel supports the purchase price on the house, and it's so important. Yeah, before it comes back. So that's your chance to rebut it before it's actually going to be published, and that's your best chance on any appraisal, because once they put out a number, they're admitting they were wrong by changing that number. So just realize that. Question for my 4 LOs here: does anybody have MBS Highway? Okay. Well, so after today, some of Marcus, here's what I'm going to tell you. MBS Highway is where I watch my bond market, the Japanese candlesticks and all that fun stuff. They have a great tool. It's called the bid over ask tool. And so I'm going to challenge these 4 to get it. It's $100 a month, but it's worth it. It shows you when you're going to return your investment on what you're paying over the appraisal based on the appreciation of home values. So it shows the client they're getting a return in 5 to 6 months right now. And that's conservative, because that's probably using a 12 or 14% because they use a national average. And in our market, we know that things went up over 20% last year. So if you pay 5% over, and you were going to pay 500, you ended up paying 525 for something that appraised for 500. As soon as the house goes up 5%, you got your money back. And that could happen in 2 or 3 months. It'll most likely happen within 6. So that'll be coming to you soon from some of our people.
Awesome. They didn't even know it. It's amazing.
If not, you'll all have to call me.
I love it. Oh, sure. Go ahead, Nick.
I did have a question towards it, because you brought up how the facts contacting the appraisal itself and putting it towards the listing agent. Like, do you want to meet the appraiser at the property, or do you want me? If the seller is there itself, and I know for a fact, are we supposed to, if we're representing the buyer, are we allowed to communicate directly to the seller if we're at the property with the appraiser? Or does the listing agent have to be there representing the seller to be able to talk to them?
The listing agent should be there, but if you're ever in a situation where you're with the other party, the other side of the transaction, obviously you can say hi, but I wouldn't take it much further than that. You don't want to give any advice. You don't want to negotiate, even down to a lamp of saying, hey, I'm sure we could throw that in. Nothing. And so you don't want to communicate with that seller if you represent the buyer. And so draw that line, but be cordial. Don't be a jerk.
Talk about football.
Yeah, talk about football, talk about whatever else. But yes, thank you guys for everyone being so involved with the conversation today. I love it when we have the roundtables and everyone gets involved. I feel like it's just sets in our brains a little bit more and helps us to feel more a part of it. I want to thank all of you guys for joining us in this roundtable. One big clap for everyone here. I appreciate you all. I'll let you guys just sit here for a second. I have a couple quick announcements. And I always have in my mind when we do the roundtable that we will end it with like somebody moving the table with like piano music playing, but I haven't gotten there yet. So we'll just let them sit today. Yeah, Andrew, go. I just want to tell you guys really quick, we have a lot of coming soon listings. So I have two listings, 400,000, 410. One listing, oh, you know what, let me just tell you, Peter's got one coming on for 400,000. Wow. Kira's got one coming on for 410,000. Sonia's got one coming on for 535,000. And with Aaron's listing team, we've got a 539, a 600K, a 630K, and a 750. And so, oh, I'm sorry, I missed one, and an 895. So, does anyone have anyone in any of those price points? Yes. This is going to be on my desk. So, you guys can come up here, take a look at this. We are starting to post these on the Facebook page too, so if you're not a follower, please become one. These are coming soon. You know how great these are? If you guys are calling people and talking to them and you know they're in this price point, you've got an edge. You've got a value proposition, just what Andrew was talking about, what sets you apart from the rest. So know these listings, know what zip code they are in. Like I said, the details are going to be right up here for you. Check in with the TC that's assigned to it. Come talk to me if you can't figure out who to talk to about it. And then call your people and tell them, I've got an inside scoop. I've got information coming on listings that have not hit the market yet. You are now valuable to them. Everybody loves to hear a secret. So share with them those secrets. And we've also got a listing on Silverado Ranch. These are all on the MLS. 198,000. I know you got people who want that. Oh, sorry, gone. We've also got one at 325,000 on the market. It's gone? Oh, it really is. That wasn't a joke. She really just accepted. Nice. I love it. You guys, that's how it works. So get on these coming soon.
If you just say it.
We've also got one on Adams Bay, 350,000. Chili Nights, 515,000. West Richmar, 1.75. You guys, if these are sitting on the market, write an offer. These are the ones, if they're sitting there, I know hers is already gone, but if it's sitting there, these are the ones that you can write a little bit under. Go look at those properties that have been on the market for 30 days plus and go write offers on them because they're sitting there wondering why they're not getting an offer and they just might accept your $10,000 less. So use that. I know you guys, I'm horrible that time. That's why I'm talking 100 miles an hour. Annie, you want to come up real quick and talk to them about Landmark? Annie from Landmark is here. She wants to share just a little tidbit with you guys that can help you in your business. Sorry, I'm rushing you. Yeah, right there. You can go right here. He'll put the camera on.
Hi, I'm Annie from Landmark. So I just wanted to talk about the distribution of sellers' proceeds when they are going through a divorce. So oftentimes we get sellers that are in the process of a divorce or have officially just been divorced. So when it comes to the signing appointment, we can always accommodate separate signings. We know it can get a little awkward being in the same room with one another, so that's always a good thing. And then as far as proceeds, they have to either be split evenly to each party or whatever is agreed upon, or sometimes it has to go to the law office to be held if they're still doing the divorce until it's finalized. Whatever option is chosen, it does have to be agreed upon, and we like to have the seller sign off on it. So again, it's either going to be split however they choose, or it'll be sent directly to the attorney's office.
You guys may think, am I ever going to need this information? Yes, you will. Yes, you 100% will. You are going to be surprised at the things people will ask you, but they will ask you, well, we're splitting it. I'm going to take 70, he's going to take 30. That's going to be okay, right? They're going to put that on Annie too. No, it has to be in writing and agreed upon. And so this is probably something she comes into contact with quite a bit. So definitely good top of mind information. And Annie, I know that we're broken record. What should they be writing into their contract?
So I've been told do Landmark/Meadows.
Yep. So we lied to you a few weeks ago. We lied. You have to put Landmark/Meadows. Landmark is the escrow company. Meadows is the title company. We want to use both of them in the transaction, so it has to be written in there.
Correct, yes. So I'm employed by Landmark. I do the escrow. On the prelim, it'll show Meadows. So that's the difference of the two.
Yeah, great. Well, one big clap for Annie. Thanks, Annie. We appreciate you. I'm over. So I went over on time. It happened without Aaron here helping me. So there we go. It's not all Aaron every time we go over. I blame him. I'm taking it back right now.
Don't tell
Yeah. This is between all of us right here, okay? Just a couple more quick announcements. Kira has book club this week. She's going to come up and tell you guys what they are reading. This is Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I will have it on in the training room. So if you guys want to join in part of the conversation, you can Zoom in or join us live together in the training room.
By the way, Matt is behind me saying this is good stuff. So everybody come. Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game. It's over 600 pages. So
not to intimidate you.
Don't bother reading it. Just come and enjoy the Cliff Notes from me and Zach Hammer.
I love that.
Coming up on our schedule in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be reading Great Leads. April 20th, we'll be doing Blue Ocean Strategy, and everyone needs to be there for this one. On May 4th, we're going to be going over ninja selling.
Oh my gosh, that book is so
our productivity
good, you guys.
coaches
It's
will be
really
there
good.
for us on that. We're actually rereading it to get you guys to come out and talk about this great book.
That's very exciting. Kira, thank you so much. One big clap for Kira, or 5, whatever you guys want to do. You guys, I have a KV Core class today at 1 o'clock. We're going to go over some of the special features that you guys have available with the KV Core suite. And tomorrow morning, ERS 9:15 in the training room. I'd love for you guys to join me for some dialogue training. We'll do some role playing, get you guys more comfortable talking to buyers and sellers. Headshots. Do you need a new one or refresh the one you've got? We will have headshots in the training room tomorrow at 10 a.m. Nerds to Go will be here at 1 o'clock to set your computers up so that you can print from your laptop directly to the printer here in-house. And Thursday, I have Seller Boot Camp at 11 o'clock this week, and we're going to be going over marketing and servicing the listing. And so I hope to see you guys all there. And then really quick, does anyone have any bell ringers or shout outs that you want to recognize? Amy?
The July UPW for Tony Robbins before the end of this month, and I can give you the link. It's half price. Instead of being an $800 class, you can get it for $399.
Wow, that's amazing.
Highly recommend it. It's a 4-day training. Do plan to spend 12, 14, 16 hours days in that training if you want the full benefit from it. So definitely.
Yeah, if you guys feel the energy coming off of Amy right now, it's because she just came out of one of those, and so she is ready. She's fired up. What was your second announcement?
Class last year, and you all know I more than doubled my business doing Tony Robbins Business Mastery, and ended up being at the awards dinner in the inner circle. So if you have a question about any of that being effective, there's your answer.
Love it.
I have a shout out. This is to a person on the launch team. They surpass their CSU goals with conversations and appointment sets, and they still have 8 more days to even go further. So Michael Clark, please go ring the bell.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell, Michael. Ring. Now you have to. Now you made it awkward.
Come on, Michael. Yeah.
Woo! All right. Good job, Michael.
All right. Zach Dunmeyer, come on.
$1,000 price reduction. Get up there.
And
That's amazing.
he got 2 flex clients under contract in the same week. That's persistency and consistency embodied right here, baby.
It.
Beautiful.
You won't break it. I already did. Nice. Good job, Nick. Mm-hmm.
We were in here for like 8 hours. I am mentoring her. She went through all of her templates, got all her stuff up, and she did her first offer, wrote her first offer last night. So
Good job, everyone. Whew. You're not getting out of it.
Happened. A little bit. The lady standing in the room, you guys have no idea what it takes to set up this hour, much less the rest of the week. She does it for you guys.
Aww.
She wants everyone to
you.
have a life of abundance.
I do.
And she works her ass off. Trust me, I see it. Every night, every weekend, she deserves a little something.
Aww. Thanks, baby.
Thank you.
He wants something. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for
One more.
Sean.
I just want to say thank you too, because we really appreciate you. Thank you.
You guys are so sweet. I am so grateful for every one of you, and that you allow me to keep coming up here and doing this, because I absolutely love it.
Yeah,
So thank
you. And I want to give a shout out to Yvette because, I want to shout out Yvette. And the reason why, she's working on 3 people for me right now. And I don't care what time I call her. I have to say, Yvette, I got to text you because, But she has been working so hard with everything she's got going on herself. And I just appreciate her because she just explains. She never says, I'm too busy. So I just want to thank you for that, because I am new and I'm learning a lot. So go ring the bell. Thank you.
Have a great day and happy selling, guys. Thank you, guys. Sorry it went a little over.
I'm ready to go work. I'm ready to go.